Welcome to Palm Harbor Local, where we bring you inspiring stories from the heart of our community. I'm your host, Donnie Hathaway, and today we are joined by Katrine Elia. She is the owner and founder of Katrine Elia Yoga right here in beautiful Palm Harbor. Now our show is all about celebrating those who have put in the sweat, overcome the hurdles, and still find time to give back to the community. If you want to be inspired by how they got started, what keeps them going, and what they're doing to make Palm Harbor even more awesome, you're in the right place. In today's episode, you'll learn how Katrine was introduced to yoga, how she survived COVID and moved her business and life to Florida, and then the benefits of yoga for your personal health. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at Palm Harbor Local for behind the scenes content and join our weekly newsletter at palmharborlocal.com for all things happening in Palm Harbor. Let's get started. Katrine, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Palm Harbor Local.
Thank you. I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, I'm excited to chat with you and kind of learn more about your business and kind of, what brought you here too. I think that's an interesting conversation we had previously talked about. But let's start with your business now. So you have a yoga studio in Palm Harbor, but you also do stuff online. So tell us a little bit about that.
So I took my studio in 2022 from Philadelphia to Palm Harbor. So I opened this studio here in January 2023. And I had a studio in Philadelphia for over 10 years before. And so my studio has two parts. It's yoga to certain styles. I teach these days. One is yin yoga and the other one is alignment yoga / Iyengar yoga. And the other part is offering Ayurvedic consultations. So Ayurveda is a 5-year-old, probably the oldest healing system in the world, 5,000 years old. And I would call it the mother of yoga. The mother of yoga, the mother of meditation, the mother of breathing exercises. So it's all a package of that, right? So that's what I offer. So the reason why I came here is Philadelphia through the COVID time got a little difficult for me.
Sure.
So
As a business owner.
Yeah, as a business owner, there were a lot of restrictions compared to Florida. And I know people here in Florida, they're kind of, we had a lot of restrictions. No. So the East Coast higher up, like New York, Philadelphia, they had through the COVID time a long, kind of restriction time.
Yeah.
And so what happened was when it all started that, students didn't want to come anymore. And even though I wanted to stick it through, but they didn't. So, and that actually, was a big problem for many of my competitors. So there many close, one after another. It was hard to watch. And so I, shortened certain things. I, didn't have the cleaning lady and didn't have this and I didn't have the swiping machine. And so I made it work just also using my own money. And this whole situation got too much for me. So I decided, also the sunshine in Florida is great. Sun is one of our biggest healers.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know that. Doesn't mean sunburn, but protected. Not meaning using a lot of sun protection. That's a different story. I thought it was also time to do something else and start it again.
Yeah. What made you choose this part of Florida?
Well, I was here many times before in this area, so I was familiar, and I'm also love golf, and so playing golf at the Dunedin Golf Club. One day, I saw a sign, and my mom just died actually right before, and I thought she's guiding me somehow. Sounds maybe weird, but it's kind of that's how I felt. And then one step was going, after another, and so we bought that house, and so we're combining now golf and living, and the yoga is also a big part. Yoga for golf is always good for all sport. So and that's kind of what brought us here.
So you mentioned this. We talked about this before, right? But something you just said brought it up again. You're like following your intuition. Like that's something that you are, like you said, we talked about it. You brought it up before. Like that's something you feel strongly about.
Yeah.
How do you, um, how do you follow your intuition? Because I think it's hard sometimes to, you kind of get caught up in the rat race with the busyness of life, and you have a family and kids and work and that sort of stuff. And how do you take time to like recognize those moments when you're like, oh, this is a sign?
It's really not that hard. People think it's harder. It's first of all, it's your gut feeling. People, sometimes say gut feeling. My gut feeling said, and that's actually your intuition. So you feel it. Like the story with the house. I knew this is where I'm supposed to go, and it's just you just have to be open. You open minded. You people, and sometimes people want to talk themselves out of things. Oh, doesn't make any sense. So that when you just say that, you already know this is actually where you go. Or my good example is uh when you apply for something, right? And you're trying it. And you're trying it, doesn't work. It means, that's not for you, right? Or my old story was when I started to get into the yoga, because I had the worst boss in my life in New York City as a curator for visual arts, contemporary art. And so she actually, I have to thank her these days, but when I was in this situation, I wasn't. So so I got kind of pushed into yoga through her because I was unstable, and afterwards when I decided to leave. And so, I after my first yoga teacher training in Vinyasa, which I'm not really teaching these days. I could, but I'm not. And so I applied and applied, like for yoga class somewhere in a fitness club or in the church, they did that. Or here in Philadelphia was like rowing is big there, and all the doors opened. So for me, that is a clear sign, right? Just go, right? So it's really not that hard. People I think put all these reasons why. Oh, I'm too old, right?
Yeah.
Or I don't have enough money or whatever. So it's always like, I can't do this. And the moment when you say that, you're already closing the door. So it's just the gut feeling is actually the intuition.
Yeah. And so to me, it sounds like it's like really the key is like having an open mind and being able to accept like whatever comes your way almost.
Yes.
Right.
And not being afraid.
Right.
Right. So I think that's where people say, oh, I can't do that. Oh, you did that. I could never do this. That's another saying.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, you could. Right. So you just have to put your mind to it and just don't be afraid.
Yeah.
Just do it.
Yeah.
And so most of the time it's, you have to, when you look back, right, then you see, oh yeah, it was right. When you're in something, you probably don't.
Right.
There's too many other things. And yes, there's a lot of stress, even moving, doing that big step. I came from Europe, as people probably can hear, for 26 years ago from Germany. And yeah, that was a big step.
Mm-hmm.
You would never think that because culturally, I thought it was a big step. I never thought that, but it was. Yeah, would I do it again? Sure, I do it again. I think I want to go somewhere where I really don't understand, like Asia, and will live there.
Yeah.
Because this is like big challenge then,
Yeah.
because you don't know the language, you don't know the culture, so all that. So, but it's a chance to do something else with your life,
Yeah.
not just doing the same thing and talking yourself out.
Well, I think too, like we get caught up maybe here in America too, more so than other parts of the world, but you get caught up in like, this is the way it's supposed to be. I go to school, I get a degree, I get a job, work my job, and, live in one place, whatever. Don't
Right.
move around, don't try new things. And like to take a step back and be like,
Right.
you can do whatever you want, right? It doesn't have to be, but just, it doesn't have to be like what society believes it should be, right? Create your own path.
Good practice also to find your intuition is just close your eyes, right? And then ask the question like, shall I go to Palm Harbor, Florida? Then whatever comes to your mind first, that's what you do. There's your intuition. So it's a very simple thing. You just have to, ask that question and, and not talking yourself up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's something I've been like more aware of the last couple of years, but if I have an idea that comes up or, maybe there's an opportunity to talk to somebody or I should reach out to somebody, like I'll do that even if I don't know like where it's going to lead or what it's going to be. I'm like, hey, I just wanted to reach out, say hello, whatever it is,
Right.
So, all right, let's talk about the yoga that you teach, right? In yoga, and then what was the other one you teach?
I call it alignment yoga, but it's Iyengar yoga.
Iyengar
Okay.
yoga.
Iyengar yoga is probably, I would call it the queen of yoga.
Okay.
Okay, so people who don't know that, so Mr. Iyengar, who I think made it to 95 years old and still did his, heavy duty practice every morning. He is the inventor of the yoga blocks, of the straps, of the blankets, so all the yoga tools, not the yoga mat. That's a different story. But so I think the yoga mat was invented by a German guy, and then somebody took the patent away, stole the patent or something. Something was rubber. It was a rubber thing, and he was like producing rubber or something like that. Interesting story. And then somebody else took
Crab.
the idea away. But in India, they normally use a blanket. I don't know if they do it these days, but
Okay.
yeah, several years ago. So, and Mr. Iyengar is actually more yoga therapy, I would say. So he was able to, people with a lot of issues physically, but mentally too, to help, not to fix it, but to make it so, maybe also sometimes to fix things, but to make it so that they can live with that. So yoga can heal certain things. So yoga is not just a fitness exercise. It can be, but it's a half of the event, right? So yoga can help with stress and depression and with high blood pressure and with circulation issues. And recently I had a woman, um, terrible stories. I helped her a little bit with the issue of a prolapsed pelvis. So, I mean, there's so many things if you want to look at yoga as a lifestyle and yoga therapy. So that's what I really do. I like to think about myself as yoga therapy.
Yeah. And yin yoga, what is that practice like?
Yin yoga is a practice. It's not that old. It's from, I think, in 1974 or something, from a guy, Paulie Zink. He started out, or one of the jobs he had was an auto mechanic, and he's this very tiny guy who is very bendy. He's almost like he could actually, if he would be younger, work in a Chinese circus because he's really flexible. And so he was working as an auto mechanic in these big trucks, and he was sitting, sometimes in these certain poses, and then became later in some of the yin poses, to work on with his wrench and, working on things. So just very interesting. So um, also there was an issue later on, who has the right, to call himself, I'm the father of yin yoga, but he's the father of yin yoga. And yin yoga is the opposite of all the yogas we know. So in Florida, most of the people know only hot yoga in hot Florida, which I always have to smile about, but Ayurvedically thinking. And so, uh, but it is the opposite of all the yogas because it's mostly on the floor, yin yoga poses. We have like, I maybe teach not more than 34 poses in total. That's not a lot. Working the stretching and stressing the connected tissue. So the reason why we should do this is to stay flexible and become flexible. So this is really great for people that, work out crazily, on bikes and running and I don't know what. I taught yin yoga a lot, like athletes, at basketball, they got big scholarship at universities, so stuff like that. But it's for everybody. It's for all ages, but it's important in all the yogas you do. It's the regular practice, right? So it's kind of the anti-aging, so that's what we all want. We want to be flexible. We want to walk around when we're 85, right? And we want to sit in a wheelchair. The life is half over. So that's kind of where this goes. So it's an interesting practice. Like I said, it's mostly on the floor, and we're holding poses for quite some time.
How long?
Um, between 3 and 5 minutes, regularly. But I had a class that always begged me, let's do 7-7-7. So, I think it's also drink, right? 7-7, whatever.
Okay.
And the old folks know that. And so it's like between 3 and 5 minutes. Not always comfortable.
Yeah.
So that's also interesting. Not always comfortable.
Yeah. What
what made you decide on those two styles of yoga? Is that what kind of you were taught, or you kind of just tried a bunch of them and you're like, oh, this what resonates with me?
I have many yoga teacher certificates. I started on Vinyasa, and that teacher I picked was very difficult, which I like because he always pushed me to my edge, which is also good for me. Otherwise, I get bored. And so he always taught Yin Yoga. And I think, and that's not true. There was another woman before that, before I did my first teacher training. She actually put the seed in my mind about Yin Yoga. And so over the years, for some reason, it was always, on my side. And when I was done with my first teacher training, the bigger one, 200 hours or something, I was offered two classes, and one was a yin yoga class. And I'm like, okay, so I teach that studio. So I when I started yin yoga, I hated it, but what I always noticed afterwards, I felt great. So when you're in these poses, as I said earlier, it's not always so comfortable because also your mind gets very agitated, and it depends what kind of element your dosha is, Ayurvedically speaking. Um, so a person who has high fire is probably very annoyed, right? So high fire people are very often these very good sports people, right? And so you're very annoyed. Your mind goes like crazy. So what do you do? Right? So that's very difficult sometimes. So that's why I think I kind of got, again, it was the past,
Yeah.
so I know it, and it- I don't know, over the years, I think yin yoga is not an easy sell. People really get into it, yes, and people stay with it. Um, but for some reason, it worked the way I was teaching. People liked it. So,
Yeah.
so I have even online these days, a lot of people from Pennsylvania, or in COVID, we have to switch over if you want to survive, right? Zoom came along.
Yeah.
And so I still have hybrid classes where I have, people from Pennsylvania, or Omaha, I have somebody, or from Europe, some from more southern Florida. I mean, this is great. So in a way, we kind of all connected. So I keep my yin
Yeah.
yoga crew,
Yeah.
So
Talk to me about like that process of going online, because you hadn't done online before
no,
COVID, right?
no,
And Zoom really like blew up during COVID too.
Investing is extremely important, but it can also be somewhat confusing. With taxes, asset allocation, stocks, bonds, and funds, to know what to do with all this could be overwhelming. Jacob Wade is a financial coach and will work directly with you to put together a roadmap for your money, for life. Jacob has built a name for himself as a finance expert, and you can find his writings in places like Forbes Advisor, Money.com, Investopedia, and Time.com. But he has a passion for helping people create a clear and simple investment roadmap to buy back their time and retire with confidence. If you could use a financial coach on your team, then simply go to palmharborlocal.com/roadmap to book a call with Jacob today and see if hiring a financial coach could help you crush your 2025 goals. Don't wait to have that same feeling next year of not hitting your financial goals. Connect with Jacob today, and let's make 2025 your best financial year yet.
right.
Yeah.
So so when I started Zoom, right when we had all this COVID stuff and restrictions, and and my husband said, you have to go online to save your studio, and I'm like, I hate it. I don't want to do online. So in a week, I got this going. I come from the visual arts, so I, in terms of setting it up with lights and sound and all that, because it makes a difference that you can be seen online. And yes, Zoom was brand new. A student recommended it. I had something else, conference call or something. It really didn't work out. It broke in the middle of the class, and everything was like black. And so anyway, yeah, I because I was somebody who was always believing, like, if you're not in class with somebody, you can't learn yoga right. And I disagree with that these days, because if you go to a yoga teacher who actually tells you and gives you corrections, yes, you can do it online. So I think I'm a good proof for that.
Mm-hmm. So you're actually, it's not just like, I mean, I've seen a lot of stuff on with YouTube, right? Like you can get yoga classes and stuff on YouTube, but they're just walking you through. They're not like actually coaching you or
Right.
whatever. But in this scenario, you see them as well
Yeah.
and you're correcting them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I give corrections like somebody I know maybe has a replacement in the knee or something. Say, no, don't do this pose and do this pose because of your knee. So it is really pretty alive, So it depends also on the teacher. If you never correct it, well, you do your thing like, like a tape.
Yeah.
So you start and you close up, but you never give corrections. But I think it is possible on Zoom.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad tool. I had to change my, opinion about this.
Yeah. Accept the technology or embrace the technology.
Yeah. Yeah. So it works.
Yeah. So let's talk about like like a little bit more about the Ayurveda. Did I say that right?
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda.
Ayurveda. Mm-hmm.
That is an old medicine. Is that how you would describe it?
It's a 5,000-year-old healing system.
Okay.
It's probably the oldest in the world. The Western medicine never talks about it. I don't think they have a lot of understanding. They should. We should partner, particularly in after cancer treatments. Great Ayurveda. It's the translation is the knowledge of life. So we're using nature to heal ourselves. I think it's the healer. It's fantastic. I heal my husband and myself for many years, so we hardly go to a physician. It really works.
How did you get into that? Like, and why did you bring that into your business as well?
So again, path,
Yeah.
right? Intuition. So I had my first really yoga teacher, my first teacher training, that guy who taught me vinyasa, taught me many, many other things. And it was also Ayurveda, little things. Okay. So like, like mama points, which is like the acupressure point, what we maybe know from the traditional Chinese medicine. So we have also a system like that. It's called mama points. So he integrated that in the teaching. And I always thought, that's interesting. Or there's a certain color of the day, if you really get into this whole thing, I'm not doing this. Today would be purple, I think, but Friday. But you can use color therapy. You can wear T-shirts or you can wear a certain gem, right? All that makes a difference.
Changes like your energy, and you wear like a color for each day of the week? Or
Changes, it's connected to the planets.
Yeah.
Right. So he had that always involved in his classes. And I found that fantastic. And I think, look, I believe in past life. Okay. Not because I do yoga, because for me, there's a lot of, things there kind of make me understand there was something else. So we believe then that the reason why certain things are easy to you, they come to you easily, right? That there was maybe something in your past life in a certain way. So for me, when I learned a little bit more Ayurveda, I think my first Ayurvedic healing, and was not even trained, was on myself. When I went to a trip to Mexico, and I was in a super hotel and I ate only there, and I was very careful not to eat stuff on the street because you can get Montezuma's revenge very fast. And so I came back, and I didn't have Montezuma's revenge or all that, but I had like too much acid in my system. So I wasn't sure if that was from the trip. Maybe yes, I don't know. So I went to my physician, and he didn't listen. And he gave me only 7 minutes anyway. And so he gave me acid reflux pills. So I had 1 and 2, and I had side effects, and I threw them out. So I'm like, this is not acid reflux. I have too much acid in my system. I don't know what that is. I know what it is these days. But so I started to look online, and with my little Ayurvedic knowledge, I figured out certain things I just have to eliminate out of my food plan. So like not few oranges or tomatoes or tart apples, or there's a vinegar. So I did that for a while, and it went away. So and that kind of was a little bit the first key. And then I went to Ayurvedic practitioner myself, and everybody has something. I maybe had some skin issues or whatever, And I was curious to see what they do. And so I came with a few things, and so I was like amazed what that's like. And I think that was kind of, for me already a set stone. And the next thing was that another person I knew, another yoga teacher, who was also an Ayurvedic practitioner, he says, "Hey, there's a course. Are you interested in it?" And that's how it went.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, so I go along with that.
Yeah. So you had some exposure to it.
Yep.
Had some positive.
Yep. And I this was it. And when I started studying it, it was so easy for me to understand. I'm like, I mean, wasn't a lot of effort for me. And I'm like, okay, well, because it's probably meant to be. So, and I think that's how it went. And this influenced my yoga teaching a lot. So I was teaching in the beginning, really big classes way before COVID, in studio classes. I think my biggest class was once, which is ridiculous, like 35 people. You don't get anything out of it if you go to a big class like this.
Okay.
As a student, I think.
Yeah.
And so, for me, that kind of changed the whole outlook on, not, first of all, not everything is for everybody. One fits all doesn't work also in yoga.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that got me also a little bit more to, not, more to quality than quantity. You cannot work with somebody really on something if you have like 35 people there.
Yeah.
So, and that was my concept also in Philadelphia. So, I had smaller classes. I think my biggest class there was 14 people,
Okay.
which was fine. It's almost too much. I like 8 people. That's a good group,
Okay.
because then everybody gets something out of this.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that's how Ayurveda influenced me a lot, and the way I teach and the way I approach things as in my classes is often like eye yoga. I've never heard about this. There's yoga for eyes. There is breathing exercises, pranayama in there.
How many different types of yoga are there?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, there is Iyengar yoga, there is Ashtanga yoga, there is Yin yoga, which is the non almost like the not yoga. There is Anusara yoga, which had a problem recently, a few years ago, with a guy who was like the head guy, abuse.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Then also Bikram yoga had a big problem. I don't know if you ever heard about it. He had to leave the country. Big problems with abuse, student abuse. God, what else is there? Good question. I probably like, I would say, then there's Hatha yoga is also like, gentle yoga. There is Bhakti yoga, which is a totally different direction. Then there's Kundalini yoga. I mean, maybe 8, 9, 10
Okay.
things. I mean, there's a lot.
And can you just create your own yoga style, right? And if it catches on, like, is that how these new, like, yin yoga was created or
Yeah.
whatever,
I mean, I probably do my own style, because even my yin yoga has, elements of
Yeah.
alignment,
Yeah.
which a lot of
And
people.
I imagine like all teachers kind of have like,
Well, if you're
some-
serious, yeah. I
Right,
mean, you have,
right.
if you do it for a long time, you teach what you teach has a lot to do with you.
Okay.
So I'm pretty good with lower back stuff, for instance, because I have a low doses, like like you could put a tray when I was a kid on my back, right? So that's why I went into classical dance for 30 years. My mother thought I need more posture. However, this is a very weak area for me. Okay, so that's why I learned so much about how can yoga help with lower back issues. Now, there's many lower back reasons. I mean, issues why people have that, but
Sure.
so I think I'm, know a lot about this because of myself, and I'm really good with standing stuff because I'm coming from classical dance.
Okay.
So, I mean, everybody has like a preference. Some people's good in, I don't know, inversions. I mean, I can teach the classical inversions, but there are people that are fantastic. They're really good with that.
Yeah.
But they're maybe terrible with standing stuff or
Sure.
forward extensions. So I think you can form your own style. But there's also, as my first teacher said, don't try to invent the wheel. So it's only so much, but you teach, what you teach is you.
Right.
So I think that's, is your style.
Sure. Sure. What about like for children? Like, is there a certain age where they shouldn't be doing yoga, or like if they can do it, go for it?
I mean, there should be a toddler. I think that's the problem. Even though it's sometimes, there's baby and mom yoga or something.
Yeah.
And they're but laying there, it's kind of the mom does something and the baby. I saw that once. I thought, okay, well, but yeah, no, I think when I had to teach once a children's class for somebody had to kind of jump in. She was stuck in California, and she asked me, "Oh, start my class now. Can you help me out?" And I said, "Okay," but I don't have any background. And it was fun to see. I was thinking all these different kids, age from 6 to 12, I think was in that particular
Okay.
class. They would be all flexible.
Right.
Whatever I do, they're
Oh,
flexible, and they're not. No, they're not. And I thought, wow, that's
Oh,
interesting.
really?
No, some were, some weren't. And so it was just an interesting experience to see, and the energies, so it's like they're bouncy. And I had to teach once. I
Yeah.
gave a free class in school, I was asked.
Yeah.
In a not very good neighborhood in Philadelphia, and I was more afraid that my wheels are still on the car that they were. And you saw that the metal bars on the school windows. So but it was an interesting class. So every time I put there were kids like they were very hyper, and every time I said downward facing dog, and downward facing dog, and they were all calm, and that was great. It was great to see it. For me, a good experience.
Yeah.
You know,
So we've started with our kids. So I have 2 daughters, almost 5 and 3 now. So they're young.
okay,
But our oldest they're both pretty flexible. So maybe as they get a little bit older, like that's when like
yeah.
things start to tighten up a
yeah.
little bit.
5 is a great age. 5, 6 is good. I think it's a
Yeah.
good start. I
Yeah.
wouldn't go. Depends on the kid.
Yeah, the youngest one, she doesn't do much.
But 6 is a good age.
Yeah. Well, we started doing it at night to let's get ready for bed, kind of calm down a little bit, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll ask for it. They're like, "Can we do yoga tonight?
No.
Before bed?"
Nice.
So it's just like a way to try to relax and kind of set the tone for
That's great.
bedtime and stuff. But yeah, but the oldest, she's into it a little bit more. The youngest, not so much. She'll do
Not yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, it helps yoga helps with so many things, as I said earlier. I mean, you just mentioned it, it calms them down, right? So it depends on your energy, right? So and also for older people, if people can't sleep, well, they can learn something there, Ayurvedically for sure. But there are certain poses, that might help, right? I'm not so sure. I had once a student, I had to smile. The student came in and said, "Teach me a pose." Did I tell you that before? I'm not sure. Teach me a pose for I want to lose weight. Is there a yoga pose I can lose weight? But I'm like, no, this doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
So you wanted one pose and I'm losing weight. Oh. And I said, no, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah,
It was
that
kind
can
of fun.
happen. How often are you doing yoga yourself? Is this like a daily habit for you?
Unfortunately, I don't have always the time for it. Sure. I do my practice sometimes before I teach a class, like a short practice. But I for sure every week I do 2 1.5 hour sessions with 2 teachers of mine. One is these days in Albuquerque, and the other one in Philadelphia. And so I'm not running around anymore and do classes here and there. I'm beyond that. It's doesn't do it for me these days.
Yeah.
I did in the past. But that's kind of my assignment also to stay a little fresh, to see what other people do. I think sometimes it's like a pose they teach, and I didn't teach this pose for a long time, and it's like, oh wow, this is good. So it's a little bit staying fresh. I take Ayurvedic courses still. I'm doing right now my cleanse, one of my Ayurvedic cleanse for almost 3 weeks, and it's not totally 3 weeks yet, but it will be 3 weeks. But you also have to stay fresh as a teacher. Otherwise, I get bored
Yeah.
fast. And so all my classes I teach, they're always different. Even though it's maybe I have a Sunday yin class and I have a Monday night one, they're always different. So for me also to not get kind of like boring with myself, but also I don't want to bore the students.
Yeah.
right?
If they're doing the same thing like over and over again. Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. How long should a yoga session be?
I teach these days 1 hour sessions. 'Cause I think it's like, you know, if you can't say in an hour or teach an hour what you want, right? I don't know.
Do you need to like work up to an hour long? Like if you're new to yoga,
Oh, you think that's long? That's long? You
yeah,
think? Oh, I thought that's short. No, no, no. In the old times, that's why I have to figure out. But
that's short. Okay.
in the old times, was 1.5 hour.
Okay.
And I
Is that when you first started teaching? Like it was 1.5 hour or before you got into teaching?
I'm thinking about this. I think it was 1.5 hour. And then I switched it to 75. I mean, I do still do that sometimes. I do give also workshops, and they're mostly longer. Yes, you have more people ask questions and stuff. But yeah, no, you have to work up. Well, if it's a good class, you not even notice it's an hour.
Sure.
So I think that's it. If it's it depends on that. I don't think you have to work up to this.
Okay.
I don't think an hour is long.
Yeah.
Because you kind of prepare the student for whatever. And then you do the actual class. And then there's all this, like in my class, there's a long shavasana, which is a resting pose on the back. And so it's kind of, the actual class is maybe not an hour.
Sure. Yeah. The actual like movements and stuff. Yeah, that makes sense. Your business is in Palm Harbor.
Mhm.
Where can people find you? And both in the physical location and then online.
Okay. So I have a website, www.katriniliayoga.com. So you can find all the information, schedules, where I am if you forget, and programs, a little bit about my background, about pricing. I'm here in Palm Harbor at 1010 Michigan Avenue, so on Alt 19. Pretty visible. Now I have my second sign again. The first sign blew off with the two stores, and I have one hanging on the wall, facing the major street there. So yeah, and I do hybrid classes. Most of my classes are both, but you can come to the studio and have all the props and peace and quiet. If sometimes that's another problem when you teach people at home. They have their regular lives there, and they can't really be totally there.
Yeah.
Or sometimes, I have to go in and move furniture around and they don't have the right space. So it's easier sometimes to really go to a class. And I also teach because I teach different things there normally here in Florida. So I also teach beginners yoga privates. 2 sessions. They are 90 minutes long, and I teach you the basic yoga basics, right? So class like poses.
Okay.
You get like a pamphlet at the end. Can look at the pictures and what's the pose is called. And so when you're a little older, or maybe you want to do it right, sometimes people want to do things right away, right? That is a good idea to start. So I always feel like people tell me always that was great. I feel like at least I know downward facing dog is not on the floor. And so they have a little bit the feeling that, they can handle the class. Because there are sometimes people there, they're doing that for ages, and it's a little intimidating when you're a little older. So I think that's a good start.
Yeah, I like that. Kind of introduce people to what's
Yeah.
what.
And you can always look back and say, okay, what was that warrior one, or what does it look like and stuff like that.
That's a cool idea. I was just thinking when you were saying that, like we just did so I was trying to do more events and stuff this year at some of the businesses around town, and we just did our first one at Om Meditation and Wellness in Safety Harbor. Invited people out and come experience, this business. We should do like a class or something.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Good.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and hope to see you in class.
Yes. I'm gonna check one out. I'm gonna do the yin yoga steps.
Good. All right. Thank
Cool. Thanks.
you.